So, the most exciting thing that has ever happened for me since I've been alive is realizing that we are moving as a society into a paradigm where emotional maturity is the bottom of the barrel. It's baseline. Oh my gosh. If 6-year-old me knew this, I would have been relaxing my jaw. Like reality is coming our way. Oh my gosh. Because I was so used to being around people that were in complete illusion or unwillingness. And that is due to fear, shame, or guilt. And so it's so beneficial if we are able to become clear about what healthy and unhealthy looks like, then we can teach our youth to this difference and to what to look for. So we can teach your daughter that a man ghosting is emotionally stunted and an emotionally slow person. And our baseline used to be full delusion as a society, and we would look at people with emotional accountability and maturity as ridiculous, too much, expecting too much from others. I am so grateful that that is going to be baseline. I can't. Oh my God. I keep seeing visions of myself in a hammock, and I'm like, I know, I feel like I died and went to heaven. It is a dream. If you've been an emotionally accountable person, willingness to be vulnerable, admit when you're wrong, speak your truth, set boundaries, not people please, then you are emotionally healthy. And it's amazing. Like when I was people pleasing, I could see that I was not in willingness to have standards and speak up for myself. So in acknowledging that and grasping it, that's when change can happen. As soon as we are willing to acknowledge what is. And so now that we are moving into a paradigm where if people are not able to acknowledge their patterns, they're not willing to share their emotions, their vulnerability, we can acknowledge them as emotionally slow, not from a place of shame, but from acceptance of what is. It's the same thing as saying if you eat a lot of sugar, you could get diabetes. That's just what is. Now, if you're in unwillingness and you're consuming sugar all day, every day, you're going to hear that as someone saying, you're bad, you're going to fail. It's all a delusion, So I am so grateful to be moving into this place of reality. And it's the best gift that we could give the next generation. No more unwillingness to acknowledge what is right in front of us. We will be acknowledging people who are doing that as people who are just slow. And it's funny because I, for 17 years straight, worked in group homes and for 9 years coached the Special Olympics track team. So a couple of years ago, when 2 different people approached me and they asked me if one of my exes was slow, I was like, well, he's like really good at math. He runs his own company. But if you mean emotionally, then yes, he's delayed, he's stunted, he is slow. But if you met him, you just wouldn't think that. I used to think of that as just the people that I needed to help shower every day at the group home. But now we're moving into a paradigm where if you can't break up with someone and you have to ghost them, you're a slow person. You are not in willingness to speak up for yourself. And for some who live in shame and unwillingness, this is just going to be escalating their shame. But if they're willing to care about the greater good of humanity, then they're going to come into willingness like, yeah, I don't want my daughter thinking this is acceptable. I don't want my son thinking this is acceptable. It is such a gift that we are giving. So for me, something that makes me laugh so much is that, when you're talking to a friend and they're in a state of unwillingness, whether it's that they're always there or they've just been triggered and that's where they dropped into. And when they go to tell you an excuse, and so this is what I experience in real time when I'm interacting with someone and they, when your friend is like, yeah, I'm hanging back out with my ex, when they're full excuse, just bullshit, but they want you to play a part. So they want you to stand there and nod along as if you believe the bullshit coming out of their mouth. So in real time, when I'm speaking to a human being, I'm interacting with their higher self first. So if someone's coming at me with an excuse, that's the secondary thing I'm hearing, but a louder, energetic voice, I'm hearing, I'm too afraid I'm showing up with an excuse. So in real time, I experienced them saying, hey, Tay, I'm going to need you to play a character right now. They look exactly like you, but they believe the bullshit coming out of my mouth. So when you are with an emotionally safe human, a person who's in willingness, even if they've dropped into unwillingness for the moment, you can break character, right? When they're like, yeah, I'm just dating Charlie again and you're like, Lisa, cut the shit. And you start laughing. You'll know you're with an emotionally safe human if they're like, all right. Even if they're triggered, like, whatever. Later, they're going to be like, all right. but you know you're with an emotionally stunted individual if you can feel it in your body. It's not safe to break character. You're like, yeah, totally. I used to be drop into fear, into illusion with them, and just be like, oh shit, I'm on SNL, but it's scary. If I break this character, I'm going to be attacked. Now, from the outside, it will look identical. I'm just like, yeah, I'll just nod along. I'll yes you to death. But this is not from fear. I just am protecting my energy. I'm not going to laugh and be like, cut the crap, Lisa. You're being ridiculous. Just to have Lisa be like, well, screw you. You couldn't pay me. I'd have to have so much self-disrespect, and I don't. So now when I'm talking to a person and they're like, yeah, I'm in a delusion right now, I nod along, and I know if it's a safe person, I can laugh. I can break the tension and be like, I'm not going to hold you to this absolutely ridiculous standard because you're doing that right now. I believe in you. I have more respect for you. And you'll know if you're with emotionally healthy people because you can break character and laugh. If you're with an emotionally stunted individual, not a safe person right now, doesn't mean they're bad people, just not safe, you will know that you cannot break character. And I'm just so glad that we can talk about this stuff more and more. And you'll know the people around you that are in unwillingness. And the best thing you can do is not try to save them. When my ego was running the show and I was wanting to do for people what I would want people to do for me, I want you to call me out if I'm falling out of integrity. If I'm falling into unwillingness, I hope if you care about me, you're going to say something. But most humans don't want that. They're committed to living in illusion because their intention is to stay away from discomfort. My intention and others' intention who live in willingness, our intention is the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it is. And so how incredible is it that now that we can acknowledge someone who's defensive all the time, that's an emotionally slow person. It's not mean, it's just what it is. And that's helpful to tell your son and daughter. So when they start dating and looking for their lifetime partner later, they can say, oh, that doesn't align with someone who's emotionally defensive all the time, someone who has unwillingness to admit that they're wrong, to apologize. That's a very stunted individual. Still a good person, but does it align with your standard? You could not pay me to interact with people like this at this point. But 3 years ago, when I was heavily people-pleasing, oh, of course I was. I had no self-respect. But that's when I was able to acknowledge that that's where I was. Then I was able to change. And so I encourage you to look inward first before you start analyzing anyone else. Look inward. And instead of saying, do I have that? I find it so much more helpful to say, where do I see that in me? Where is that shame in me? Where am I guilty? Where am I in fear and unwillingness? Because it's there. We're human. It's in there. But you'll hear people that are emotionally stunted. No, I don't have any issues like that. Nope. Just all good. Just be careful. Do not break character. Not along. Get the hell out of there. But if they're healthy, then you can break character. You can laugh and be like, I'm not going to entertain this insanity. And the people around you that you're like, oh shit, I have to, or else they're going to go into this victim mentality, this victim mode. And today I noticed that the biggest energy drainers, the biggest energy vampires is for me to place myself around a human who's in unwillingness, because they're going to be just defensive, deflecting, rejecting everything that comes out of your mouth. And they're not willing to talk about why. If you're with a person and they're not willing to be like, wow, you mentioning this topic makes me feel really activated. I feel the need to shut you down. Someone with self-awareness, they have the willingness to look at themselves. Very healthy. Really, this is the best thing that I could have imagined. And we see that truth is a new paradigm. It started with the Me Too movement, Diddy, Epstein. We're seeing people having the willingness to speak up now. Things are never going to be the same. We're never going to go back. So the more that we can hold ourselves in willingness to be vulnerable, willingness to set a boundary, willingness to step out of our comfort zone, then you get to be an incredible role model for the youth around you, because they're going to copy what they see. If you are not willing, neither will they. They won't be either. And how does it feel? We know that you are feeling shame when you're unwilling to show up, unwilling to connect with others. Of course, you're building brick by brick shame. And other people that are not doing that are not going to want to connect with you. And that sucks, because you deserve to not be alone. So I encourage you, if you're struggling with this, but wanting to get into willingness, DM me ready and let's chat. Let's set some intention to change the fucking game. Let's go. All right, guys, have a good night.